Union Technical Assistance Facility for Sustainable Energy, and I will be the chair of this track today. So, welcome back. Let me introduce to you the panel we will have today on Mozambique. So we will be, which is called Private Public Renewable Electrification Roundtable Mozambique. Let me introduce you the moderator, Dario Maputo, Senior Advisor, Get Invest in Mozambique. Dario, please, the floor is yours.
Good morning again, everyone. Thank you, Nicholas, for introducing myself. And happy to be here today in Abidjan to talk about the Mozambican electrification sector. And I welcome you all. I also welcome my rich panel of 7 people. It's a huge panel, so I think it's going to be the show for the next hour and 15 minutes. So allow me to introduce from my right side from my left side hand side to the right. We have Gary from Logos, and then we have Eric from Dynamis. We have Dr. Felipe from FUNAI. FUNAI, it's a fund of energy. It's a government institution. We have Sheila from the Mozambican Association of Renewable Energy. We have Marcus. Marcus is my colleague from Get Invest. He runs one of the Get Invest services called Finance Catalyst. We have Arnold from SolarWork. SolarWork is one of the leaders in the country on solar home systems. So they're covering almost the entire country. And we have him today here to share his experience from the Mozambican market. And last but not least, we have the Mozambican government himself. It's Dr. Damião. So he's here to talk about all the leads, all the proceedings in regarding to the Mozambican law on energy sector, renewables in particular. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the menu for this morning. So we have the entire country here on the stage. So let's make use of this opportunity. It's going to be 1 hour and 15 minutes. I invite you all to be more active and interactive and asking questions. I'll be moderating the session. I don't mind if you interrupt us, including me, for questions, because at the end of the day, we want everyone inside of this room leave this room with a big picture of the Mozambican market. If we have investors, this is the opportunity to understand how the Mozambican market behaves. If you want to compete, we have the people here in the stage running the Mozambican market, so it's a good opportunity as well to understand from them the challenges they're facing in the Mozambican market. So let's get started. I will give 1 minute each or half minute each to present the companies, who they are. I mean, I've already announced your names, but take your time to at least pitch for your company. Tell us what's your company, what's your business division. 1 minute each. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. My name is Gary Wiltshire. I'm the founder and the managing director of Logos Industrias. We've been in Mozambique for 20 years. We've got 6 branches. The very first renewable energy site we commissioned in about 2010. And we focus predominantly on CNI.
Bonjour, tout le monde. Good morning, everyone. I'm Eric Martin Laborda, Managing Director and Founder of Dynamis. We are SHS solar company. We started in 2017 selling solar lanterns, and in 2021 we launched our own product, implementing a pay-as-you-go model. We are in 3 provinces at the moment, and we expect at the end of this year to be present at least in 1 more province, maybe 2 more.
Good morning for everyone. My name is Philip Monjan. I'm board advisor of FUNAI. FUNAI is a public entity on energy sector, especially on off-grid side. We are promoting all kind of all chain of solution for for renewable energy, special solar system, mini grids, and also the mini hydro, in order to accelerate access of energy. We're also doing access of petrol, especially in rural areas with the program we call it geographic incentives, in order to, in all districts in rural areas, as a solution to petrol stations. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Before I introduce myself, I want to thank you, Ari, for organizing this conference, and also a big thank you for Get Invest in GIZ to make possible for us to be here. My name is Sheila Bila. I'm working as an executive director for AMER. AMER is the Mozambique Renewable Energy Association, and we exist since 2017, so we are a very young association, and we work, we have members. We started with 10 members, and today we are almost 100, and passing by individuals, SMEs, and also big corporation. And our mission, we work as a voice for private sector in Mozambique.
Marcus Rota from Get Invest Finance Catalyst. I'm responsible for the Mozambique country window that we have running since 2 years. We're supporting private sector to realize their fundraising targets.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Arnoud of Roman, founder of SolarWorks. We started with only PayGo in Mozambique in 2016, 2017. It was a very interesting ride. But we're balancing now our PayGo solutions with larger systems for health clinics, schools, tourist accommodations, offices, so that we don't only have PayGo. We think that's too dangerous. We are present in all the provinces except Cabo Delgado. Yeah, that's it, I think, for now.
Good morning. My name is Damian Namoera. I work at the Ministry of Mineral Resources and Energy in Mozambique. I work at the energy sector since 2007, especially in renewable energy. I was involved in several framework, develop several framework, legal framework, and the several program for the energy sector.
Thank you very much. Marcus, starting from you, breaking the ice. Get Invest Finance Catalyst had a country window in Mozambique for about 2 years now. What kind of investment opportunity do you see for foreign companies who want to enter to the Mozambican market?
This works.
Okay. Yeah.
So yes, I think in these 2 years you have seen a lot of change already in the Mozambican market. No, Mozambique has gone through difficult times as well, hurricanes, floods, droughts, and now we really, I think, as Arno once said to me, now finally like in a kind of normal situation, really, for normal business. So, and despite all these shortcomings, these obstacles, you can see like companies have been growing and have been thriving. So it really speaks to the resilience of the companies in the Mozambican market and the attractiveness. But we have, in Finance Catalyst, we have received about 50 to 60 applications during these 2 years of country windows, which translated into, I think, currently 10 or 11 active projects in Mozambique that we are supporting. So some of these have turned into success stories already. Some will be future success stories. Likely some have failed, clearly, so some have really given up. Maybe if I look into it maybe a bit sector by sector. So there's obviously the IPP sector, so that was, we have some companies that we have been supporting there, local developers, and now we have supported them like with third-party studies and during the early stage development. Now we are going to reach out to international developers to connect and forge partnerships. So I think there's an opportunity here for international developers to come to Mozambique and partner with local developers in the on-grid space, as well as financiers, which will be the next steps, and de-risking these projects, like with all the nice toolboxes that you have available for these type of projects. If we look into, say, C&I, it hasn't been that obvious. I mean, the viability studies that we have done for several clients here have not always shown a very clear path to viability. So it's still a sector that offers opportunities, though, I think, to specialized companies that have solutions with power quality, grid stability. I think, like Logos is like one successful example of companies that offer very specialized solutions. Yesterday we were listening also to Xipefu as well, another company that also also have here, and that is offering a very good and very particular solution. So I think in this sector there's opportunities there as well. Yeah. The mini grid sector, we had some companies, but they had early on thrown in the towel, to be fair. Like they came to Mozambique, tried, and gave up. Say due to many reasons, but particularly a lack of a framework.
Marcus, sorry, maybe you can come back on mini grid, because we had Funai, and then I have an interesting question regarding the mini grids. Let me jump quickly to Gary. Gary, I'm looking at you now because Marcus has just mentioned CNI, and then I know you are playing on CNI space. How do you see the experience, the solar in the market on CNI currently, and how do you see the challenges on CNI space, since you are, as Logos, you're playing on CNI space? What are the challenges and you are facing as a private sector?
Okay. So in terms of traditional CNI, one message I think that's important that all of us stand on the same page is that Mozambique is definitely open for business. Yeah. And the government, FUNAI, organizations, there's been significant change, and 2022 was a landmark year in terms of these changes. Mm-hmm. But so like, I suppose, any type of industry, there's an evolution or a growing up that takes place. And the easiest way of explaining the CNI space is probably we're in the toddler stage. So the baby has been born, but the baby is 2-3 years old, and it's learned to walk, but it's still a little bit unsteady on its feet. So it's the practical implementation of the law. It's understanding from a CNI developer perspective what is allowed, what's not allowed practically. Hypothetically, you've got a retailer. The retailer requires a 400 kilowatt system on the roof. In other countries, the legal framework is there for a third party to own that asset and to actually then sell the electricity, and provide the infrastructure. The legal framework, in my mind, is there in Mozambique, but I think it's as I say, I think it's the practical application of that legal framework, that we're now in that phase of development. So the CNI space, if you just look at the price of electricity from the utility, it's a very difficult model to substantiate just according to the price of electricity. Mozambique has got relatively cheap power compared to the countries around it. But access to utility power is a challenge. And then power quality, as Marcus mentioned, is a second driver for CNI projects. And then lastly, in terms of power security, is also a big issue. That certain parts of Mozambique is prone to power outages, and obviously climate change and the effect thereof has had a massive effect on the quality of that power and the infrastructure from traditional utility powers.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, Mozambique is open for business. Number two, the CNI sector is in its infancy, but you can see all the drivers are there. That is, it's on the cusp of an explosion, I believe, like the explosion has happened in countries surrounding Mozambique.
Yeah. No, thanks, Gary, for that answer. I mean, it's amazing because we have today in our panel the government to talk more and elaborate more about the practical application of the regulation, since the regulation is there, but it's missing some components in terms of application, practical application. Before going to the government, I'm looking at you, Eric, now. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on CNI, on solar home system space? Because now we have a little bit of clue of CNI. And what about solar home systems? I know you are active on that market. So how do you see the challenges and opportunities are there? And is there anything we would like to address the regulators, since we have them here in the same table? Do you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, what is I think the major change for us, it would be the new regulation, which is giving more transparency and information to investors and potential companies that want to enter the market. I think a major step is the exemption on VAT and duties. For pay-go companies, this is crucial. I think this is going to be, it's going to help to reduce massively, to reduce our costs, and eventually translate that to the customers, which is I would say that's one of the main goals, that the customers can have more affordable products. So the challenge, I guess, is how we can as well collaborate better with the government institutions. So when we started, we were a bit out of the radar. Now, for instance, we send on monthly basis our data, the sales of the solar home systems, the locations where they've been sold. So that helps, obviously, to map and to have a better track record of the solar home systems in Mozambique. Just to remember that solar home systems are massive contributor, I would say, to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. What we see is that the market has changed since when I started in 2017. There was only one pay-go company, it was SolarWorks. Now there is 7 or 8, I guess. There is more offer of products, of service. There is more awareness. The customers know better what is the solar products, and I think we benefit from a positive word of mouth. Just the data to indicate how the SHS industry has grown exponentially in 2022. Of the 400,000 connections that on-grid and off-grid, 100,000 connections were of solar home systems, which is basically 25% of all connections. And that's the data for 2022.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. For those, I'm coming to SolarWorks now. Yeah, for those who don't know, like, a big picture of Mozambique and country, Mozambique has a country. We have 10 provinces, and SolarWorks is active on 9 of them, missing 1, maybe due to security issues. So now, Arnold, SolarWorks, how did you see the opportunity to expand from Maputo, which is the capital, to 8 more provinces in the country, and to up to today you are active on 9 provinces? Where did you see opportunity on that market space, which is solar home systems that you are active in distributor? And I think you have already distributed more than 1,000, more than 100,000 solar home systems. So where did you see the opportunity?
Is this working? Yeah. Look, there's about 30 million people in Mozambique, of which in rural areas I think it's between 90 and 95% of people don't have electricity. So it's not hard to see the opportunity there. And the further you go, the bigger the demand is, because you're usually the only player there.
Mhm.
So look, it's very simple. There's so many people without electricity, so your growth basically comes from going to one province after the other. And once you reach a certain level in a province, that's usually where you stay, and then the growth within that province comes from offering new solutions. So yeah, the question is actually, the answer is quite simple. There's a massive demand. I mean, what's 100,000 systems on a population of 30 million people, right?
Arnold, are you also electrifying public buildings?
Yes, hospitals,
Yeah.
schools, that mainly, government buildings now, working on a courthouse. So yeah, that is actually a very good addition to our business. And just to be sure, we've been profitable since 2021. So also from investors, we see a really increase in interest in Mozambique. Because of that profitability, despite the not so easy years, right? 2019 was the cyclone, it washed away 20% of our systems. 2020 was a pandemic. 2021 were the consequences of the pandemic. But because the demand is so enormous, and if you watch your cost closely, you collect well, it is profitable.
Okay. No, thank you. Now to the government, Dr. Damião. Thanks for having you here. I know you have a busy agenda in Mozambique, and I know a lot of things happening now, but you made yourself available to join us in Côte d'Ivoire. So, as representative of Get Invest, I thank you for making yourself available to this conference. Doctor, what mechanism, exists to monitor the electrification targets proposed by the government of Mozambique? Combining that we had from the panelists, the practical application of the law, because the regulation is there, but maybe the private sector feels somehow a lack of a practical application of those regulations. But I would go in the direction of the mechanism to monitor the electrification to reach the target proposed by the government of Mozambique. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start to say thank you for invitations. It's our pleasure to share our energy market, what we are doing in terms of electrifications. In 2018, we approved the National Electrification Strategy with the goal to electrify all countries by the several technology, solar home system, clean cooking, mini grids, and even if the grids. For tracking the objective of national electrification strategy, we elaborate we call a universal access platform. It's a digital platform who tracking the target in the national electrification strategy. These digital platforms offer visions of regional progress, provincial electrifications, access electrifications. And then we are underdeveloped as a electrifications unities in the minister. These electrifications unities is units who will follow what we're doing in terms of electrifications, private and public sectors.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Damian, that platform indeed can help, because if the investors who want to invest in Mozambique, the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources, they're running a platform that will map the off-grid areas, and then they will estimate the distance from the grid, and then that can be the first research to this for investment decision. And thanks for that for that platform. Funai, we had here about we had Miriam, which is the ministry, explaining us about the platform and the effort that has a ministry is putting in place in order to enhance the electrification and reach the goals defined by the government of Mozambique by 2030, which is the access to access to electricity by everyone. We understand that that's a very tough challenge, but we believe that we don't have to keep our hands crossed in order to, doing nothing, because it's a very ambitious goal. How can the government, but now I'm looking, government has FUNAI, which is the Fund of Energy, supports the enabling environment for renewable energy investment, has FUNAI, because we tried earlier on to make clear to everyone here in this room what is the role of FUNAI. FUNAI is a fund of energy, but reports to the Ministry of Energy. So we have the Ministry of Energy, we have the Fund of Energy looking of all electrifications efforts on off-grid space. So we have Philippe here, and also Philippe, allow me to say thank you for making yourself available to this conference. Please, how do you, has FUNAI putting effort for investment on renewable energy space on off-grid areas?
Thank you for this question. The point is how can combine solution regarding the barriers that we have so far. The first one is to see the legal framework. What's the gap? How can solve or how can address those gaps? Mm-hmm. For example, for solar home systems is open market, which means the self-consumption, which allows everyone to get on this market to offer solution. Thanks to the companies like SolarWorks Engine that comes with an innovative business model in order to access everyone in rural areas. Okay. Other solution that we can pose on table is regarding, for example, a combination of facilities that...
Sorry, Dr. Philip, to interrupt you. You mean the solar home systems market, it's open now?
I see it is an open market.
It's an open market in Mozambique, okay.
In terms of a legal framework.
Legal frameworks.
Okay. You don't need to a big elaborated process.
License, huge, difficult licenses. Yes. Okay, thank you.
It's different, for example, for segment for mini grids, okay. But on solar home systems, it's more easier done compared with the mini grids. Okay. Other solution that we see as the way to press or way to move forward is to put on the market some kind of tools like RBF solutions. We have a tool now. There's from Fazer and also Brill that brings solution for those who operate on this market. The new one are coming is from the World Bank, and we believe it will start next year, which means we're increasing solution for this market in order to get more access through a different solution, addressing different barriers. Other solution that we have so far is regarding credit lines through fund guarantees. Now we have two credit lines from one bank, BCI, that offer one credit line with a lower interest, but
how much more or less?
Is it 75% for SMEs and micro enterprises? Okay. They put on the mic 7.5% for local currency medical, and with up to $50,000 for 3 years, which means it's a solution that we are providing the market. Other ones is from also the same bank, but with different source. I think it's come from KFW. That is a little bit more in interest rate, but also is lower compared to the average of the market. The third solution, I think the panelists also mentioned the exemption VAT and duties that also reduce the prices of the solar home system in order to, for those ones cannot access due the limit on the budget or limit on incomes, can have access, can have a chance to get those products in order to achieve the universal access.
Okay.
But there are other barriers that we don't have now, the remedies, but we believe next year we can bring more with the different patterns that are running now.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Felipe. As I said, I'm going to my last question of the first round. That will be going to the Association of Mozambican Renewable Energy. And then from now it's open for the floor. If you have questions, as I said previously, we can just raise our hand and then it's open to ask questions. We have here public sector, we have Mozambican private sector as well, both public and private. I think this is the best scheme to ask our questions and clarify for those who want to understand the Mozambican market, including the ones who want to have grants. I'm looking at you, Marta. If you have grants, we have here the people who can apply for your grant, and the government, how they deal, for example, if a certain company is beneficiating from a certain grant. Chila, looking at you now, we had here, because you play a role as association on my understanding of honest broker. Yeah, you play the role of an honest broker, and we have opportunities that private sector they see and the benefit, and then we saw instruments such as credit lines from FUNAI that are going to BCI. BCI, it's a commercial Mozambican bank, so the interest rate in Mozambique today are around 23%, but this credit line is bona fide one because it's a 7.5% for renewable energy investments, both productive use or CNI space or solar home systems. It's applicable. So I think from 23 to 25% to 7.5%, I think it's a huge difference in Mozambican market. So you as association, how do you disseminate these kind of opportunities that the government give to your associate? Because I understand as association, AMER is increasingly playing an important role in the sector. So how do you support companies, your associate, your members, to benefit from these opportunities and others? Thank you.
Okay. As I said at the beginning, we are young association, and we started with 10 members, and now we have 100 members that we see has a huge growth in just five years. And we believe that this growth is associated with our vision and our mission that is very clear for us, that seeks to encourage the development of renewable energy sector in Mozambique in order to create a sustainable future for Mozambican people. And we based our activities in three main pillars. I think this is going straight to your question. The first pillar, it's the impact that we create in our members through a network that we are able to development, and also the access to opportunities. The other pillar is building capacity. We have memorandum MIU with one of our donors that they use to build the capacity in terms of technical expertise, giving training on technical expertise for our members that they may also need. And the other one is visibility to our members, that this can be done through our newsletter, or can be done by social media. And also the thing that we have here is create awareness regarding the potential of the sector. Here I can give an example. We launched in conjunction with ALER, Lusophone Association of Renewable Energy, last year in December. We launched the brief of renewable in Mozambique. where you can find all the information about the sector.
Okay.
So in case someone needs that document, I think we are able to give and support.
Okay.
So
Thank you, Sheila. Yes, any question, as I said, I'm open to take any question from the floor. Is there any question? Okay, yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Being a part of the Southern African sort of power pool, my questions are probably to Arnaud and to Eric with regards Mozambique and its tough terrain. If you look at the access to your market along Mozambique, would you say access, your sales have been deeper, or would they be closer to the access? I'm just interested to know the sort of cost analysis along that as to whether people in town are supporting rural, or that I suppose would give us a better idea of where that sort of market, or as Eric said, the larger numbers of installations are.
Yeah, thank you. I think we can has our probes to be interactive. One question, one answer, or two answers. We will not collect questions from the floor because we can lose our mind. So maybe you can take that, Eric.
Yeah, our strategy is not, or is basically to sell where we can provide technical assistance, and we can make sure that we can make the collections. Normally you realize that your agents want to go very far away because there is no competition, there is no one there, and it's easy to sell. But then you need to come back, a switch, a lamp, it's not working, and you need to make 150 kilometers just to repair that. You cannot let the customers let alone. So basically our strategy is make sure it's not always possible, but make sure that where you sell, you can come back and provide the good technical assistance.
Okay, thank you. Is that clear? Yeah, thank you very much. I think we have one hand that side.
Thank you very much. My name is Rolex Mcheka. I work with GIZ Uganda. Okay. I wanted to understand the CNI market more in Mozambique. So you mentioned that there are possibilities like to have the third ownership and you sell electricity. So how are you doing it? Does like leasing also work there? Or, and also you mentioned that the price of electricity is really low in Mozambique. So how does, like, if somebody is to have the CNI and the third party own it and sell electricity, how does it compare in the case of Mozambique here? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. So to be clear, we haven't launched the leasing model in Mozambique. So the leasing model that we do in countries around Mozambique, but not in Mozambique. And that's what I was trying to explain in terms of the infancy, versus, where Mozambique is now in comparative terms, South Africa. So in South Africa, with the current load shedding and with a disruption in terms of utility supply, leasing is a massive issue. We're probably busy currently, I would say, probably 7,000 sites in South Africa, roughly. We own the asset and we then sell the electricity. In Mozambique, where we get demand, so there's no shortage of demand from customers. The demand from customers is as a result of a few things. One, power security. Where you're in an area, two specific areas come to mind. One is Tet, and one is Pemba, where you have significant disruption to utility power. And there's certain equipment that obviously you need continuity in terms of power. Number two is that voltage fluctuation and quality of power is a big issue also. You can imagine the cyclone coming in, say for argument's sake, Freddie I think was there for about 30 days, doing the dance across Mozambique. And the disruption in terms of utility power and quality of power. So the comparative, if in a market next door, if we take Eswatini or if we take South Africa, the cost per kilowatt hour is significantly high enough to justify a PPA model. In Mozambique, the cost of power, if you say, for argument's sake, in a city that has got regular power, to justify leasing is very difficult. So the other drivers are a contributor. So the leasing model at the moment is driven by various factors, but in terms of legal framework, I don't think that we're there yet. The toddler needs to grow a bit from a practical application to understand the legal framework of what an investor that invests, let's just say, for argument's sake, $500,000 on an asset and selling that power on, or alternatively, if it's a different contractual arrangement with an off-taker, forget putting back into the grid. I'm just talking about self-consumption on that commercial site.
Okay.
Have I answered the question?
Yeah, Gary. Gary, how do you survive? How do you survive as Logos? Because if I recall, we know Mozambican tariff is a little bit low compared to Angola. I'm looking to the head of the Ministry of Angola is here, and thanks for being here. So how do you survive as Logos? Do you have many clients on CNI space?
We've got a significant amount of clients in the CNI space. At the moment, the majority of CNI, or not the majority, 100% of the CNI space, customers purchase the CNI solution.
Okay.
Without diversity, if it was dependent only upon solar, I think it's almost impossible to survive in the CNI space.
Okay.
So you need to have a significantly bigger basket of solutions in that CNI space. So for argument's sake, energy monitoring is a big issue. Then measuring quality of power, power quality assessments is a big issue. Having the equipment to fix power quality issues and voltage, either under voltage or over voltage or surges, is a big issue. I feel sorry for EDM. If you take, I think Mozambique has been particularly hard hit by climate change. I think the bottom 2/3 of Mozambique, the highest point above sea level, is about 300 meters above sea level. So you've got this floodplain, which stretches about 1,500 kilometers, that is so susceptible to all these cyclones that are hitting Mozambique. And if you understand the traditional utility model of generation, distribution and transmission, it is almost an impossible task in a country like Mozambique. I'm talking about just from a climate change perspective and the effects of climate change. So to answer the question, survival, I think in terms of the CNI space, is some very heavy technical engineering and thinking holistically rather than in a first world country that has got a very stable climate and a very stable grid.
Yeah, thinking elastically, I would also look at, I was doing a tour 2 weeks ago. I was with Sheila in Mozambique and went to Chimoio, which is that there is a lot of agro-processing activities there. And there is no grid at all, like inverted commerce. We end up finding companies spending like 250 liters of diesel a day. I think that could be a huge market for CNI because there is no comparison because there is no comparison of the tariff given by the utility because the utility is not there. So it's going to be 100% comparing to the diesel, and I think it's a huge and potential market that there is no even competition because there is no any solar in that area. Thanks, Gary, for that contribution. Dr. Felipe, I'm coming again to mini grids. Yeah, because from this experience of there are areas where there is no grid and there is no provision of the grid in the next coming maybe 10 years. So let's think so, because it's very difficult to bring a grid like 200 kilometers just to feed, let's say, 1,000 houses. There is no business model in there. How is FUNAI looking at that space? And how FUNAI can open doors for the private sector to invest on mini grids. I'm combining that with what Marcos was just saying in terms of mini grids.
Well, I think we have two solutions. The first one is to involve the private sector to operate and maintain the existing mini grids built by FUNAI in order to understand the market that we have so far. And second solution is give opportunity to also to invest on the mini grid spaces. But to invest on mini grid space, first we need to close or to conclude all the regulation that we need to operate on that space. For example, we have electricity law approved and publicized, and also decree for off-grid sites. But we need the specific regulation, like the concession regulation, the tariff regulation, and also, for example, the standards for mini grids, because the approach is to the medium and biggest one need to be at the same standard with the main grid, in order to be, as soon as the main grid reach the area, to interconnect if it's feasible for that, and also add an instrument in order to create a proper mini grids in order to provide a good service on there. The third solution that I see is also to see the PPP approach, where the private sector can also invest where is possible. The other parts can come as a grant or as a FUNAI as a shareholders on these mini grids to operate in order to accelerate this process of the building mini grids there. Is this space that I can see so far? Just to inform you, we have around 100 mini grids built in Mozambique from 4 kilowatts up to 500 kilowatts in two different sources. One is a PV system from PV, and other ones is from hydro. We believe in next months we'll launch the first process in order to invite private sector in order to operate and maintain so far with existing mini grids. But in near future, as soon as the legal framework has been set up, to open space for those developers. Yeah. We have three programs that I can say in process. One is from Brillo, also come with the mini grids. Second one is the BGFA, comes also on the mini grids. And the third one is underway, come from KFTAB, which means there are two space. One is existing mini grids, and others ones for next future, the new mini grids from these different programs support these spaces.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Marcus, you are going to dive into mini grids. And FUNAI now has just informed us that they have already built and under operation more than 1,100 mini grids in the country. Can you give us success stories or examples of TAA support you has Get Invest Finance Catalyst already supported on mini grid space?
Okay. The short answer is no, not yet. Yeah. To frame it like more positively, I think I have great expectations. We have great expectations in terms of this market now that there really is a new regulation that has been prepared, also including AMER, including private sector, and as for comments. And I think it's a world-class regulation that Mozambique is going to have in terms of mini grids that will be very conducive to investments. So I think this year we will see a lot of activity there. So we do have obviously a lot of success stories now of not only in terms of direct support to companies like for example, SolarWorks is maybe one example here of a company that we have supported from the very beginning, like from starting to build a financial model to the next phase of expanding and developing a fundraising strategy and aligning really the fundraising and with their revenue model. So I think this is one example of direct support, but I think we have also done a lot more in terms of supporting other institutions as well. There's a lot of institutional support in Mozambique available. So we, for For example, we worked together with GIZ on capacity building of domestic financiers. That's one program I think that will be largely important also for the mini-grid sector, you know, because there's domestic financiers, they have local currency, and that will be very important. There's other programs also, you know, by partners like NDEF that has a lot of RBF financing for companies that are more early stage before maybe finance catalyst comes in. So it's really like we have this early stage support. We have FRS support for companies and that mature, and then we have finance catalyst when it really comes to growing companies. We have the investment academy, for example, no? Mozambique Investment Academy that we have here. We're also participating, something which I hope we're going to repeat as well in the future. And I think these will really largely benefit all sectors. No?
Okay, thank you. Any question? Yes, sir.
Hello, Kevin Kennedy here. I invested in Mozambique in 2017, set up a paygo company, Epsilon Energia, which is still operating. I came here today to get an update on where the market is, so it's extremely interesting to hear from the full range, CNI, mini-grids, regulation. So a couple of questions I'd like answered to complete my update, as it were. There's a couple of really, really tough challenges in Mozambique. Fundamentally, these 30 million cannot afford electricity. So that requires subsidy. Now the big difference, it seems to me, between 2017, 2019 and now is that finally the World Bank has arrived with some money, and the BRIO facility may or may not be finally dispersing. And that's important because the subsidy model is the only way that Mozambique is going to significantly raise access. So what's happening at the moment, and it's a good thing, is that there is finally a range of companies across CNI and across paygo who have the support to get started and to try and bring commercial solutions to what are very intractable problems. So what I would love to see in Mozambique is a new type of public-private partnership, one that accepts that for the medium term, and I'm talking at least the next 10 years, access will depend on continued subsidy. I fear that, particularly in the solar home system space, that these companies will grow with subsidy, and as soon as it's taken away, they will fade away. Okay? It's very interesting to note for SolarWorks that you have adopted a mixed model. I would be doing exactly the same, because CNI at least allows you to engage with the customer with a payment scheme that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you can make your calculations as to how to resource that. I mean, just as an example, one of the biggest challenges for actually driving access further is that the mobile network and the network of mobile agents with balance enough to support payments was in 2019 very low. There were few agents, they did not have balance. So you did not just have the issue of finding customers who had the money to pay, but you had to find customers who had a mechanism through which they could pay. So, those are observations. I'd love to hear whether the mobile money environment has changed. But what I'd love to hear the panel discuss is, could we come up with a medium-term partnership that does combine enough subsidy to enable commercial companies who tend to do delivery better? They just tend to be more cost effective at actually getting electricity into the hands of the people who need it, But could we come up with a model that would be leading in all of Africa for a medium-term public-private partnership that combines subsidy and commercial activity? Because I struggle to see how Mozambique can rely on the purely commercial side to achieve the access levels that I know the government wants to achieve.
Thank you for the comment, and thank you for the question. Arnold, could you help out a little bit on that? I know that it's transversal question. It can be you as a private sector and see, and then you are navigating already there, and maybe the government as well can give some insight on that. Do you want to comment? Do you want to say anything?
Look, I agree with what Kevin says. These smaller systems, right, that you sell to the people that most need it by spreading the payment so it becomes affordable. But even then, it's not affordable, right? Either totally not, or certain parts of the year, right? Combine that with a relatively high cost of operating in Mozambique, and you end up with the necessity for subsidies. But I think, I don't know how many PAYGO companies are here in other countries than Mozambique, but I think many of them will be jealous of what Mozambique has for the coming years at least, in terms of RBS for those smaller systems. One thing I wanted to say is that productive use and higher value contracts, they are profitable by themselves. Not all of them, but some are. But those subsidies, the moment they stop, we stop with those smaller systems because we can't afford it. So, yeah, that would be also my message, exactly the same as what Kevin says. If you stop that, we will all go and sell larger systems. It's one of the reasons why we sell, let's say, 10, 15, 20 kilowatt peak systems off grid. So just below, I guess, the real CNI. So that if it happens, we still have a viable business, right? Because investors also see this, like, hey, you rely quite heavily on these subsidies. So they want to know if it is long term. So I guess the government would be playing an important role. For now it has been, I think one party you forgot there, and maybe even the most important one in this respect is GIZ. They have done more than Brilio so far. But those two together, they make it happen. It's really true. I don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I hear the same back from you as from other participants in the market, no? And this combined model that Kevin suggested is a reality, but I don't think that's unique to Mozambique. That's not even unique to, say, to Africa. I think in Europe we have the same, no? We have also cross subsidies there to rural areas, like now that would work if urban tariffs wouldn't support like the much more expensive connections that you have in rural areas. So I think it's a reality in the world. But it's true that sometimes you talk to these RBF finances, they still seem to feel the pressure to operate under the message then that this is only a temporary startup thing, and while everybody else probably agrees that it is not, is something that we'll need on a long-term basis. So I think that's maybe a message I'm trying, and I think we're all trying to portray, you know, to these supporting facilities. Hope you don't go away. We need you. Will need to be a constant feature. But there's a differentiation though between sectors. I mean, now we're talking really about kind of last mile, tier 1, which needs subsidies. Obviously, there's a lot of other sectors we haven't touched on yet, which I think are conducive to a real financial sustainable private enterprises. Maybe we can mention some of those as well at this stage, but we haven't started, for example, on sectors like e-mobility, for example, no? which is a sector which is exploding in some parts of Africa, which is a complete blank canvas currently in Mozambique, great opportunity here for the various companies to come and try to really implement a business model here. And this is something which is profitable from the first vehicle that's on the road because of the savings that you get. No? So that's one thing I'm very excited, like to discuss maybe with interested parties, other sectors as well. But just to give you an example. But
Like enough, we have some colleagues running some subsidies in Mozambique, not just on maybe electrification, but on other other areas such as clean cooking, for example. At GIZ, we have Florian who's running the energy cluster, and Gervasio, they're running. So we have a couple of incentives in Mozambique in order to enhance and bring up this, to reinforce the electrification for the rural people, the last person who can't afford the system. So these subsidies, they help the companies which are selling the kits to these households. Thank you for the questions. Dr. Damião, we look at the Mozambican market transversely, and then we touched both mini grids, we touched off-grid, we touched CNI and solar home systems. Because I know and I believe that the Mozambican market believes that to achieve the universal access by 2030 will not be by the grid. So how do you see the contribution of renewables? When you receive an application of renewables, what is the treatment you give? I know it's a priority, but I would like to hear more beside that you take it as a higher priority. But I wanted you to elaborate a little bit on that. How do you treat, since you understand that these synergies will contribute to access to universal access by 2030?
Thank you. This game is very interesting. When we start thinking in renewable energy, in 2011, we signed a policy and the strategy renewable energy. And then in this policy, in the strategy renewable energy, the one objective is to bring the private sector to help us to develop renewable energy in Mozambique. But we look for renewable in the on-grid and off-grid. So one problem we get in this time is about electricity law, because all projects will come to develop in Mozambique, even mini grids. They are attached for the concessions agreement, and then if you attach the concession agreement, the tariff will be increased if it is in mini grids. Last year, we developed the new, we revised the electricity law in terms to simplify the procedures for mini grids, solar home systems. Now we have for this technology, we have a concessions agreement, we have licensing and simplify authorizations. That will help the people who develop renewable energy to have a specific framework to develop renewable in Mozambique. So a part of the other documents we developed for renewable energy project is the off-grid decree. Off-grid decree, yes. In off-grid decree, they offer a clear process in terms of where you can we can attach for license, or where you can attach for the concessions, which technology, which size you can use license or technology. So this bring more player for our sectors. Now we have I say for example eight company develop a solar home system in Mozambique. That is good news, because in 10 years ago it will be difficult to implement this project. In the government, in the 5-year planning, they target they set a target for 200 megawatt from the renewable energy. That is the other things we can bring renewable energy for our market.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Damian. Gary, this is the last question for you. Yeah, this is the last question for you. You mentioned the first intervention of yours about the practical implementation. I mean, that touched me a lot, because we have the law there, but it's missing the practical implementation of the law on CNI space. Since we have the government here, we have investors the other side that would like to invest in Mozambique, because I'm sure of that. What do you think could be the earlier step for the government to implement, to do? What would be your advice? Because the instruments are already there, already published, but we are not implementing them. Yeah? Or is it monitoring missing? It's what could be missing to connect the dots so that the business environment can be healthier?
I don't want to step on any toes. So, but from a philosophy perspective, I think that government is needed, but private sector is also needed. You know, somebody mentioned yesterday that one of the most effective ways of making things happen is government to put policy in place, enable private sector, you know, to get the job done, you know, and it's the most effective way of getting things done. So from a practical perspective, what do investors want? Investors want stability and they want clarity. And I think that the toddler growing up into a young child is, I think, a few workshops need to be had in terms of explaining, you know, interaction between private sector and government. So in practical terms, government has announced, President has announced that there will be exclusion of solar products, you know, VAT and duties on solar products. Practically, what does that mean? So it doesn't mean that if we import product, let's just say for argument's sake, solar panels, solar mounting structure, batteries, inverters, is that VAT exemption and the duty exemption on all items, or is it only on the solar panels and on the mounting structure, as an example? You then run a few CNI sites, and something breaks. Let's just say an inverter breaks, and we need to import a new inverter. Is the VAT exemption and the duty exemption only on the primary import, or on the secondary import? You set up a workshop to repair inverters and equipment in the solar industry. Is that exemption going to then, you know, fall onto all the equipment? So that's just three practical examples. But the relevance of this is that what we need from a private sector perspective is clarity and stability.
Thank you. Dr. Philippe, by the way, we had a conversation about this yesterday, and then I recall that you said the implementation, I mean the detailed interpretation of the law, it's a document that's being put in place by FUNAI at the moment. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on that, please?
Thank you. Well, it's not necessary from FUNAI, because FUNAI don't have this role.
Okay.
This role belongs to the Ministry of Energy, okay. In this case, on the, how can I say, both of sides, from MEF, Economic and Finance Ministry, and also the Energy Ministries. Second, the point is regarding the, when you import those products, must be clear on what the duty goes, especially the exemption, special for even for certain areas like a solar home system or not to solar home system, such like, for example, for wind products and so on. So basically these issues regarding from the Minister of Minister of Economy and Finance and also Energy.
Thank you. Thank you. Chila, you are the referee in the middle of the private sector and the public sector, connecting that with what the gentleman said from the floor about PPP, okay? So how your association, you're running the Mozambican Renewable Energy Association, the unique association, how do you place yourself in the development of the sector in Mozambique? Because when you talk about development, we talk about creating the opportunity for companies coming from outside to invest in the country. You look at the law when the law comes up, and then you see if there is a gap, and then you propose the government to elaborate the regulations that will fill the gaps. So how do you, as an association, play in that space? Thank you.
Okay, we now have advocacy strategy that we are developing. One of them is we are working on gender and equality, and our objective here is to go to the communities and especially have humans integrated on the sector. So we are developing this strategy, and now we are working in partnership with SolarWorks. I think this will gonna complement what Arnold was saying at the beginning, like the expansion of energy to rural areas. So we are developing a project with the women in Gaza, also in conjunction with Gilda that is there. So in order, this is a pilot project in order to have more, the women have more access to energy on rural areas. We also waiting for the regulation that will come up. We don't know when, but probably in the following month. And we are creating like a group and work on the implementation of them in order to disseminate this to our members.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Arnold, this is the last one for you as well. We see a lot of NGOs now in Mozambique, okay, leading the solar home systems of market or space or whatever we want to call, but they cannot finance after sales, okay? So how come does the characteristic of the Mozambican market that open space for NGOs coming in, where there is no sustainability after sales? While you have SolarWorks, you have a business model, you look also after the sustainability of the business. So how this gap or this room appears so that NGOs can play in the sector?
I'm guessing you're referring to public buildings.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yes.
Look, what the role of NGOs would be is difficult for me to say, but as a, let's say, a service-minded solar company, we think that if you put if you electrify a hospital, a rural clinic, a school, or any other public building that has no power or unreliable power, putting the system in, as I'm sure Gary knows, is not the problem. It is the 10, 20 years after that, that when it breaks, you need to fix it and have a good service structure around it. So there, I think maybe in the beginning, let's say the first few years, NGOs can play a role in showing how important it is and that it is not really super expensive compared to the installation, but it has to happen. And then come to a process where surely but gradually, government can take it over from NGOs. I know there's budget issues always, but let's not use that as an eternal excuse.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Thank you. Dynamis, happy with the solar solar home systems market, or you as an entrepreneur, you see space or room in Mozambican market to extend maybe for to e-mobility or maybe to a CNI in the future? Do you see the Mozambican market with that feature, or you see it has homogeneous? When you're one direction, you just follow that direction, or you see there is a flexibility of moving within the renewable energy space, but you can move from CNI, for example, to solar home systems, or from solar home systems where you are playing to e-mobility, for example. How do you characterize very shortly, because we're running out of time? Thank you.
The short question is not yet.
Okay.
Solar home systems is for a startup pay-go companies complicated enough, but probably yes in the future. I think what the feedback that you get from investors is that it would be healthy to diversify a bit your pipeline of products and services. But for us, we are not yet in that stage. We are really focusing on the getting the business fundamentals correct. But in the future, yeah, we will be open to see what the future would lead us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Marcus, you spoke about services which finance catalyst service. If I understood well, basically it's technical support, supporting companies which want to approach the bank, to the financiers, but they cannot bring appetite of the financiers because their business model, for example, is not yet well defined, and then you provide those services. How much do you charge for these services that Get Invest provide? How much?
Well, it's depends very much on how much do we charge charge you or not. I always wonder when is the invoice coming, but so far. Yeah, but maybe we should start. We should start doing that, right? Yeah. So what we do though is we do have an application process due to this being a free service. As I mentioned at the beginning, we received 50 to 60 applications. We have about 10. So that's about the ratio. About 20% of applicants are being accepted after reviewing their applications, and it's really based on whether they present a kind of business model that seems conducive to being financially stable in the future. It can include grants, but it should not purely rely on that. But yeah, I think it's pretty unbureaucratic process. If you want to apply for us and come to me now, I'm happy to give you my contact. You can talk if you're interested in finance catalyst support.
Thank you, thank you. So it's free services. Thank you very much. Dr. Damian, so we are coming to the end. I reserve this opportunity for you to do the closing remarks. So, Doctor, I believe that you understood the queries of the private sector, and then you understood the leads that FUNAI is approaching or developing. So can you please summarize as the head of the sector in Mozambique, and give comfort to everyone who's listening to us here in the audience and outside, and your panelists as well. Thank you.
Thank you. To develop a legal framework is a process. What I learning in my few time in the government, if you develop a law or decree without a problem, will update all time this law or decree. Is normal you develop a decree when you have something to solve. Because we'll get a good legal framework. All things we talk here is our need to solve. In terms of our government is need to solve these all things. I told here that we develop we update our latest law, and we develop a new off-grid regulations. But this is not all we have. We are the off-grid law we approved in 2021. The electricity law we update in 2022. From the off-grid, we have a regulations that will approve maybe this year, but the document is already done. We need to approve only. Now we are working in the electricity regulations for bring all these things we talk here. We solve barriers from the CNI. We talk of CNI here, but we have self-consumptions. We need to solve self-consumptions. That all matters we have in our, we'll put in our regulations for solve these barriers. So I will invite all private to come in Mozambique, develop renewable energy in energy sector, because it's the object of our government. First, to electrify whole countries, give electricity to whole people. Second, we need to be a hub, renewable energy hub in our sub-Saharan regions. So please come to Mozambique. We work to solve all these problems to be a good environment, invest environment in renewable. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us for this past hour. It passed very quickly. So I will invite the panelists to go outside for the group, the panel photo behind the banner. Or, I mean, we can take one here and another one outside. Thank you very much. A round of applause for you, and then I will give the word back to Nicola.
Thank you, my friend.
No problem. Use the mic.
Obrigado. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. It's a market I follow a lot, Mozambique. I think you did a fantastic panel. So we go for the coffee, and we are back in 15 minutes. So 5 minutes past 11, we will talk about Côte d'Ivoire. But please, really give a round of applause again to these panelists.